Hello, welcome to another episode of Fujoshi Trash Talk, where trash fangirls come together to talk about Fujoshi stuff. I'm your host, Stacy, and I'm joined by the usual suspects. I have Tara next to me.
Hello.
And I've got Jen across the ocean from me in Japan.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about some of the tropes of the BL genre. Just like any other genre, it has its own special things that it does, some of which we like, some of which we don't like, so we're just going to give an introduction of some of the things you may see when reading or watching BL, and give some of our thoughts and opinions about those. So, we'll start out with something that's great for an audio-based podcast, as it's a visual thing. You may have heard the phrase yaoi hands, which refers to some of the weird and wacky anatomy that you will see in BL. Nobody really knows why this happens, but you will often see, especially the hands of characters will be so large that it could cover their entire face and still have room to spare. I'll put some of these examples on the page for this, so you may have some kind of visual reference for what types of ridiculous anatomy that we're talking about. But yeah, there's large hands, super long, skinny limbs that seem to go on forever. Some of them have like giant bodies with tiny heads. It's just can sometimes look a bit ridiculous. Can you think of, Jen or Tara, any times that you've noticed any of these examples, or have you just seen like people posting about them on the internet with like funny compilations?
People never really post funny compilations, but you can definitely tell a BL manga just from the look of it. Like, they have a very distinct art style that's like, oh yeah, that's BL.
Yeah, I guess some of the things that are common in BL are also common in shoujo, which will come up a lot in this podcast because a lot of the tropes of BL are just borrowed tropes from shoujo. Like you have like the clamps art style, for example, where they're like super skinny and tall a lot of the times, and like
Until they take their clothes off, and then
yeah,
and then they're ripped.
There's muscles underneath,
and they're broad-shouldered.
Yeah.
Like, the uniform is a miracle.
Yeah. Nobody knows how it works, but somehow it does.
That's because clearly all gay men work out, so they all have amazing muscles underneath their shirts.
Yeah, of course. But are men in BL really gay? We'll talk about that later.
And also, not even like, the whole trope of all gay men working out, but the whole trope of like, that shirt is like an 18-inch neck, and they take off, and they have like a 25-inch neck. You're like, physically.
There's not consistency here. There's something missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's kind of weird, like, when you're watching an anime, you can kind of understand there's like in-between frames where things just look weird. But like, in a manga, it's like, that's the main thing you're looking at. How could you not notice that this looks really strange? Or is it they just don't care that it looks weird and it's like, oh, that's just part of the art style. Oh well.
Or is that just their fantasy?
Yeah, their fantasy is super tall, skinny guys who are secretly ripped underneath all of it, I guess. Is that what women want?
Apparently. Yeah, you said that BL manga takes a lot of visual tropes from shoujo manga, but there's one thing that's missing is the girls. And you don't really have, like, even the guys don't tend to have those, like, massive takes up half of their face eyes, unless it's Sekaiichi Hatsukoi or...
Oh, yeah.
What's the Junjo Romantica?
Yeah, same thing.
Where same thing. Where the uke has the big shoujo eyes, but yeah, apart from that, they all tend to have very slim and serious, and they're so dark and mysterious eyes.
Yeah, I guess the eyes are one thing where it's a little bit different. But even some of those peppy uke can have large eyes too, but usually not as crazy big as their shoujo equivalents. So I guess from there, since we were talking already about kind of the seme-uke thing, we can go into some of the gender roles that you see in BL commonly. It's like, despite the fact that it's two men, there's often a very distinct, this one is the guy and this one is the girl, even though, it's supposed to be about two guys, but their looks, their personalities and all that, they still seem to substitute like a very strong masculine-feminine dynamic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is... I want to say it's changing, but there is still, like you said, those tropes that still seep into the characters. Like, what did you eat yesterday? Kino nani o tabeta? There's the manga, and there's also a live action on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is it on Netflix in America as well?
I don't know. I haven't. It might not be.
If it is, watch it because it's really good. But the relationship is you have the lawyer who's like closeted. He doesn't want anyone to know he's gay. And then his boyfriend is a hairdresser, and he's very... he's not flamboyant in a camp way, but he acts more feminine. And so he kind of falls into that, this is the female role. But the lawyer is the one that does the cooking. So he takes over the quote unquote, women's role of cooking for the two of them. So it's like, yeah, it's still their characters have that stereotypical male-female role.
Yeah. I think having the seme be the cook is a fairly common subversion that they do, because I've seen that in other things where it's like where the uke's like klutzy and useless, so the seme's the one who does the household stuff. I guess Gravitation's an example of that. Once you get to later stuff in the manga, at least, where like Eri's the one who can cook, Shuichi can't do shit. So
he doesn't need to do shit. He just looks pretty.
Yeah, it's like, I'm here to look pretty,
but he can sing.
Yeah, he can sing. That's all you got to do: sing and look pretty.
Wow, he really is filling the stereotypical female can't do anything role, isn't?
Yeah, exactly. So
sad.
And that does carry over, because that's common in shoujo as well, where it's like you have the girl who's like, oh, I'm klutzy and I can't cook.
And even when you have shoujo where the girls are competent, they're still not competent. Like the guy is always the one that saves the day. He's always the one that resolves the issues.
Well, there are a couple that I can think of, but usually those shoujos are like the reverse harem. A lot of times the female characters are really strong, but only because they have to impress every other guy. Like, they can't just impress one. So, like, they have to be good at everything, so they impress everybody. Like, Hana Yoridango, she was top of her class, and she was...
Yeah. Yeah, are there competent ukes?
There's one series I read that he was...
I'm
trying to think of a competent uke.
But then, like Tara said, that the competent female characters are in harems. So... are there harem BLs? I'm trying to think of a harem BL that takes that multiple guys all falling for the same character trope.
I know I've seen something like that. Could I remember that?
I can't recall. I mean, I can't claim to have read or seen everything, of course, but like, I'm trying to think of a BL harem type of thing.
No, but I think that would be a great one.
Yeah, this is a great money-making idea if nobody's done it.
Yeah, do it. I mean, you see a lot of, obviously, doujin of multiple guys, doing stuff together, but...
See, like Utapri, you've got tons of doujinshi with the guys all together, even though you're supposed to be identifying with the girl, choosing the guys for herself.
And once again, she's competent. She writes amazing songs that everybody wants.
She's competent, but she's at the same time kind of stupid. Well, kind of ditzy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. And she still sometimes needs the guys to save the day, but...
The one that comes to mind, but it's not an actual BL, it's more of a tease, is like, today I will be the Demon King.
Oh, Kyokarama, yeah. I guess there are examples where it's like more like a teaser series where, they're not actually going to ever get together, but they'll make you think they are.
Those are usually where I see that kind of like harem with one boy, it's a tease.
Yeah, you're right. That is kind of... Wait, I can't even describe it as a reverse harem. BL harem. But it's not BL because nothing happens.
Yeah. A BL teaser harem?
That's not the only series. I know that we've had a couple of them that are like teasers. And usually like the main guy like has a couple people guys who are attracted to him. But nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
But then again, nothing ever happens in reverse harems either.
Yeah. Well, you may get, at the very, very end, they may choose, one member of the harem. But
maybe. But maybe not, because, we might do a season 2, and then she has to have this whole issue again. Yay!
Yay! Let's prolong the drama! Woo!
Let them just all be happy.
Everybody just be happy together in one giant orgy.
Polyamorous relationship.
That's why doujinshi is a thing.
There's a difference between orgy and a polyamorous relationship.
Huh? Oh yeah, well, I mean, you could do both, I guess. They could be poly or they could have an orgy. They could keep it separate or do it all together. Whatever their choice is.
As long as everyone is knowledgeable and consented.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yes, to wrap up the, I guess, gender roles discussion that this started out as, it's like, it seems it may be improving where it's not so strict that it used to be, but there still seem to be a lot of examples, even in modern day BL, where it's very much, this is the guy, this is the girl guy, and we're not going to make it I guess, more of a even dynamic. Though one exception is where it's more like students with each other, is that they're a bit more even. There's not as much.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the manga we discussed last time, Escape Journey, that the two characters don't tend to have a stereotypical female or male role. And like you said, they're students.
And I think that was also true of Classmates that we did before as well, where it's like they're more on equal ground with each other. So I guess, I don't know, maybe just a lot of BL is more like bigger age gaps, bigger social standing gaps. That's why you see so much of that regimented, roles being assigned.
But, there's a lot of power acknowledgement in Japan culture, like a lot of senpai and kohai thing.
Yeah.
Because there are some BLs with students, but it's usually like a senpai and like a kohai, like a freshman and a senior, where you do see some of that power.
So they don't need to have the female-male roles because they're senpai kohai.
Yeah.
So that definitely defines a distinct seme-onuke role.
Mm-hmm. Like, you very rarely see a freshman being
the seme to a senior.
Senior.
Yeah. I guess sometimes in workplace ones you might get that, but not really in the school ones. Like, you may have a junior in the organization being the top to his senior. I've seen some examples of that, though I can't remember exactly. But I have heard that that's another common subversion, I guess.
But usually they're side characters. They're not.
Yeah.
Because Junjo Romantica, you had the student that went after the teacher.
Yeah.
And that was a reverse of it, like, because he was determined. But even then, he was
still the uke. I guess he was a power uke?
He was the aggressor.
Yeah. It is just interesting that the whole, I guess, gender roles and power dynamics in Japanese society, how it all just comes to play out in this genre. Where it's just, you think you could escape from all that when it's just supposed to be two guys making out, but it's still all of that stuff is in there.
Well, you gotta write what you know, and if that's how you view relationships, then it makes sense that that's gonna come through your writing.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess, the writers, we've talked about before a little bit that the primary writers and audience of BL are mostly female. Kind of in a way like a fantasy genre for women to enjoy.
Power fantasy?
Yeah. Not the type of fantasy where it's, your wizards and stuff, but...
I think it's a fantasy because it's a way of putting yourself out of the power structure, because most of the audience is not going to be male at any point in their life. So it's a way of being a fantasy that you can play out without having any... Like, you don't have to reflect yourself into the characters. So they can do things that you would never do in real life. So I think that's why you get some of them that are a little bit outrageous and you're like... Although you see that in shoujo, too. Like, let's be honest, that's not consent.
Yeah.
That ball gag does not equate consent.
Not condoning it, but again, we're approaching it from a Western perspective, whereas in Japan, it's like, it's still not okay, but assault is definitely more of a common thing, and you just kind of have to brush it off, which is really fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I can totally put this trope into my manga because it's there in society, and it's fine to use it when really it's probably not a good thing.
And speaking of that, there's actually a manga author I quit reading because she kept doing that in her manga. Like, every one of her female characters ended up sexually assaulted. And in the sideline, she talked about how she went to Hawaii for a friend's wedding. And I'm like...
The fuck?
The dichotomy of it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I can't. For her, it was a plot point that you just put in at every freaking novel.
Is that sensual phrase one that you talk about?
Yeah, phrase. Because I went to read on some of her other novels because she brings back old characters, but every one of her female characters ended rape. I quit it when she was kidnapped, and Protector, he raped her for 3 days. She left, he found her, and she went back. And I was like, I'm done.
No.
Like, as she got on more and more, like, every one of her female characters kept getting more and more sick. And then she'd, like, talk on the sidelines about her normal life. And I'm like, this is not a plot point.
Yeah, you will, in BL as well, see a lot of cases of questionable consent. For example, Junjo Romantica started out with an unwanted hand job, but then everything's okay because then they later fell in love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, even Even Love Stage started off a bit questionable, where I forgot the characters' names now, but where the semi guy came over to the other guy's house and like started fooling around with him when he didn't really say that was okay yet.
But that one was only funny because the guy who was the aggressor had no idea what the hell he was doing either.
Yeah.
It was like the oh crap. I read one of the novels recently as well. I think in Love Stage, he's like, wait, there's no way you can be a guy because I have a crush on you.
Yeah.
Take your pants off, show me. And then that is assault. He didn't mean to assault him, but he did also assault him. And it's like, no, that's not...
It's like, I know they kind of tried to play that off for kind of comedy, but it's still problematic.
That's actually, yeah, a good point. A lot of assault is played off as comedy, and that's in Western media as well. It's like, oh, isn't it funny this guy got touched up? And it's like, no, that's not cool.
It's just as traumatizing for guys as it is for girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even what we reviewed last time, Escape Journey had a questionable scene as well, and they just kind of completely brushed it under the rug afterwards. Like, why did you do that?
Or there's another one where they use kind of as the trigger for the relationship kind of blackmail. Like, I remember reading one where this guy wanted another guy to make cakes for him, and so he said, crap, I can't remember which one it was. One way or the other, they were like, oh, I'll only make cakes for you if you sleep with me. And then they fall in love. But it's still like, that's still not entirely appropriate.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if that's blackmail. That's just a questionable choice.
It felt like blackmail. Like, your business will go under if you don't do this for me.
Okay, that's one
kind of attitude.
Yeah, so this seems like it's still an extremely common occurrence, unfortunately. Like, even in modern day BL, because like some of the other tropes, they might not see them as much, but this one, it seems to be very prevalent and not likely to go away very soon.
Oh, there's one that really made me angry is 10 Count. Have you read 10 Count?
No.
10 Count's about a guy who has obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, it's actually a pretty big deal for him, and a part of that is, what's the fear of germs?
Germaphobe?
Yeah, germophobia. And he goes to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, in order to help him get over his germophobia, kisses him and touches him and then sleeps with him.
As one does.
And it's like, that doesn't actually help people who have a real mental disorder of germophobia and obsessive compulsive disorder. That actually makes it 100 times worse. I know people who have conditions and have been taken advantage of by their partners, and it's made their conditions 1,000 times worse. So again, that's not cool, guys. You can't use assault to trigger a relationship when said assault will, in real life, make it's not good. It really fucks people up.
Yeah, don't take advice from BL manga on how to start a relationship. Start or continue a relationship, because it's probably bad advice.
But it's also just such a tired trope. Can't people think of another way to get two guys to, get into a relationship rather than just, oh, whoops, I fell over and now my penis is inside you.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie.
I mean, you can chase, and you can make the chase comedic without going into assault.
Yeah.
You can borderline creepy stalking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you?
Okay, well, Tara said stalking's okay, but not assault.
I won't say stalking, but acting several times, depending on circumstances. Because even then...
Not taking no for an answer.
Well, we all know what Tara's into.
No. Tara's giving up now.
I do wonder some that don't fall into that trope then.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there definitely are examples where it doesn't start like that, but there seem to be a disproportionate amount where it starts out with some definitely questionable consent between the characters. And unfortunately, I don't know if Japan is really changing its views fast enough with both BL and shoujo for that to stop happening.
I think it's slowly changing in the last 5 years, maybe, very, very slowly. So let's move away from the very questionable.
Yeah, the questionable consent. Let's leave that behind. Let's go to that. Even though BL is, as I mentioned before, written and read by females, a lot of the female characters in it are often kind of oddly portrayed. I don't know about oddly, but they may either be completely invisible or be portrayed as like obstacles or even villains in the story, which to me it seems a little bit strange that when your audience and author are both female, why are you villainizing the characters like that?
I have a theory about this.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so you know when you're in Japan and you see another gaijin, another foreigner, what's your immediate reaction?
Go away, gaijin!
Filthy gaijin! Yeah. This is my territory.
Yeah.
That's what I feel female characters in manga are like. It's like, this is my fantasy. What are you doing in here? Get out.
I think that's a good...
And I agree.
That's a pretty good explanation, I think.
I agree with Chen, but also some of that with, like, them portraying is a lot of times they're portrayed as having a crush on one of the main characters, so they are a side because they are an obstacle.
Yeah.
Because how dare they love a gay guy?
Mm-hmm.
Drama.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there that that the girls reading it don't want a stand-in female character. They just don't want that female to be there at all, so get her out of the way. Yeah.
Yep. So female characters are used as triggers for... Well, that's not appropriate, right? But it's tools for...
Is that
for
better?
being a competition. I don't know. Women are just tools.
Women are tools. You heard it here.
They use as tools in BL manga,
Yeah.
as Tara said, as competition, as drama.
Yeah, competition, drama, sometimes vague side characters that may sometimes be encouraging even, but not really doing very much. Like, there's sometimes where they have the role of, oh, I was in love with this guy, but now I see he's in love with that guy, so I'll just silently watch from afar and be sad that I can't have him.
She should just buy the manga, then she can...
She should just make her own doujinshi.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do with our husbands, right? We just make doujinshi of the two of them together.
Aw, yeah.
That was not a visual I needed. Okay, so we know Josh is Simi.
Oh, yeah.
And Wesley is Uke.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, we've made charts before of all the friends in the group of who's seme to which uke, and are there even some reversible pairs in there?
Is there anyone that Josh would be Uke for?
I don't think so.
Whoa. Not even Space Kitten, who is a literal bear?
I think it's still based more on aggressive personality, even if there's the size difference. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I didn't mention about. Like, even fan art will sometimes, like, if you're it's shipping from a series that isn't BL, they'll often like change the heights of the characters to make it fit that dynamic. Like a character who's like two who are canonically like the same height, the fan artists will like draw the other one like super tall and then draw the uke sparkly and cute, even though that doesn't match their actual art styles at all.
Are you just talking about the Dragon Ball fandom?
I'm a veteran Fujoshi. I've been seeing this for 20 plus years of the fan artists just taking the character designs and fucking with them as they please to fit the dynamic that they want to have.
She has
Phrasing?
a very impressive collection of doujinshi to prove it.
Yes, I do have my doujinshi shelves behind me over here. So, another trope kind of has to do with some of the story elements that you'll see in BL, which are also shared, once again, by shoujo, where you have the cycle of the drama, the angst, and the fluff going on in a never-ending pattern, sometimes throughout the same series multiple times, where it's like, you have oftentimes manufactured drama just to make things more interesting, I guess, with misunderstandings between characters, and then angsty episodes as they think, oh, maybe he doesn't really like me after all, and we should break up.
Like, just have a conversation.
But then at the end they come out together in cute fluffiness and possibly sex.
But they still don't talk about their issues. They just do it, and then things are resolved, and you're like, have a conversation like a real adult.
Who does that?
Not that this trope angers me or anything, but
yeah, it's like, that's another carryover, I guess, from a result of this being written by women for women, so it's also all over the shoujo, manga, and anime, where you have these same types of things, just instead of a guy and a girl, and now it's two guys, so...
Well, and there's another part of that, too, that actually I think is a lot more prevalent in BL than shoujo, is the family disapproving. A lot of times, one family, or sometimes both, are so... Like, Junjo Romantica, the father disapproved until... he proved that he was willing to stand up to him, which I actually kind of agreed with that. But that's used a lot in BL too, both. It's used in shoujo too, but a little bit more in BL just because of that gay factor.
Yeah.
You'll have the traditional family. They can't find out.
Interesting enough, again, going back to What Did You Eat Yesterday, the mum of the lawyer, like his parents know that he's gay and they kind of accept it, but the mum at one point says, I still love you even though you're gay. And I think that's a little bit of the real experience of LGBT people in Japan coming in, where it's like, even though...
Yeah.
That even though is like, oof, ouch, wow. Like, even if you committed a crime, I still love you. And it's like, wow, you think being gay is a crime. Gee, thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
Oof.
Which is really interesting because that's such a Western influence when you consider some of the historical Japanese.
Yeah. I mean, Japan still has its own... Mm-hmm. It's like a different prohibition of LGBT, just a different way than the Western, where instead of being like, this is morally wrong, it's more like, your place in society depends on you getting married, reproducing. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's harder to change with Japan and other East Asian countries, is that the patriarchy is so strong that it becomes, very hard for people to break away from it, because they have so many people saying that they're disappointed in them for not playing the role that they're supposed to play.
That is an excellent point, because I know a lot of Japanese women who are in very unhappy marriages. A friend of mine just got married. She said she's happy, but she got married last year through an introduction by their parents, who were like, oh, both of our kids are in their 30s, they need to be married, let's marry the two of them.
Yep.
Because it's a societal pressure. And so that's an excellent point, that with actual LGBT people, it's really hard for them to be together because of that extra, why are you not the norm?
Yeah, you're supposed to fit in. There's the Japanese phrase, right? The nail that sticks out will be hammered down. Well, it's still happening. And that kind of takes us into one of the BL tropes, the I'm not gay, I just like this one guy. Which, when I first encountered this when I was younger, it thought it was actually a progressive thing that's like, oh, the gender doesn't matter. They're just falling in love with the person, which is like, which even seems like just more validating of that. It doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, you just love them as the person that they are. And so then as I got older, I kind of realized it's more like they're just kind of brushing the issue under the rug, like they don't want to talk about it, and that's why they just kind of had, these guys aren't really gay, this is just a story of two guys who happen to like each other, but probably sometime in the future they're going to settle down with women as they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Probably in recent years is getting better. As opposed to BL, there are other genres, like one that's called gay komi or gay comics, which is, instead of being for women by women, it's by and for gay men, where it has more realistic, struggles that everyday people would face as being gay. And while for the most part, I guess BL, because it's seen as like a female's fantasy version of LGBT people, it didn't really concern itself very much about what the real issues are. And so historically it hasn't dealt with that much, but I feel like recent years that BL is taking on LGBT issues actually more, like more characters talking about it and not just that brushing away of, oh, I just like this one guy, but it doesn't mean I'm gay or anything just because we have sex every night.
Yeah. It's like that comic online. Oh, I love you, but hashtag no homo. Oh, let's get married, but hashtag no homo. Oh, I'm so glad I grew old with you, but hashtag no homo.
Yes, BL has long been it was saying hashtag no homo before it was cool, or had a term for it, or a term for hashtags.
But you do make an excellent point that definitely more modern manga is dealing with real issues, like My Brother's Husband is really good for that.
But so instead of making being gay something you have to love in spite of, you make it, you are gay, you like men, or you like men and women. You're pansexual.
And there is, I guess another thing is like BL being more of a fantasy genre made for, just women who just want to see that.
Horny ladies?
Yeah, for horny women who just want to see guys make out. But I have heard that there are also some LGBT people who like BL because it doesn't deal with those hardships. Like, sometimes you just want a fun, happy story that isn't about the problems that are faced by people by being LGBT. So there are some, I guess, crossover fans, even though the genre is more like a women's fantasy genre, but there are some people who also appreciate it just for, hey, this is just fun. I can watch two guys make out. Don't have to worry about one of them getting kicked out of the house or beaten up or something because they're gay. It's like, it's just for fun.
Do have to worry about them getting assaulted, but apart from that...
yeah, well...
But if it follows true to form, 90% of the time they'll fall in love with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a good point, again, because you have women who love hentai and who love... Over half of the readers of shonen manga are women. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a surprise that you get LGBT people interested in smutty boys love.
Yeah, even if it's not.
It's not real.
Yeah, it's not real, even if it's not realistic. It's, just for fun. It's fun fantasy for everyone.
I mean,
well, not everyone.
One that pops into my head that we had fun with and I could see is like BL school. BL high school.
Oh, Gaku in Heaven.
Gaku in Heaven.
Oh, Gaku in Heaven. Oh, wow, that takes me back.
Yeah, that one was just plain fun and lighthearted.
Yeah.
That was a harem.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Gaku in Heaven was a harem. Yay!
Actually, I think it was a harem game. Didn't it start out as a game?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and then it turned into the anime with the opening scenes that Stacey and I laughed at hysterically.
Yes, yes, because they would definitely do, like, at the beginning of each episode would have those scenes where it's like, it makes it sound like something's dirty happening, but it's actually something really tame, but they're just making it sound like it through the dialogue. It's like, no, don't touch it. It's dirty.
Your hands are dirty. No, it's clean. Don't touch it.
Don't put your mouth there. And then you find out they're like drinking tea or something and you're talking about
brand new tea set.
Yeah, don't get the tea set dirty is what the actual conversation was about. But
oh my god, that's amazing.
There was one where they're talking about, no, you'll get wet if you don't hold it there. It'll get wet. And there's a hole in the roof and they're trying to tape something up to the ceiling.
Yes, if you want some light, fluffy BL that doesn't deal with any issues, go back to Gaku in Heaven.
There's still assault in Gaku in Heaven, but yeah, sure.
I haven't watched it recently, I have to remember, but...
I'm more remembering the manga.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, no, in the anime series, it was a OAV, so they didn't have a chance really to deal with that. It was just more introducing the characters.
Okay, well, the manga's pretty smutty, so...
There was a lot implied.
Watch the anime if you want cute fun, then.
Speaking of smutty, now we can talk about some of the stuff you see in BL sex scenes.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the fun things they have is the magical lubrication.
Yeah, how do they... Okay, so when I was younger, I would read fanfiction. And there's definitely a case where fan fiction is created based on the knowledge given to you by other people who write fan fiction.
Yes.
Including gay sex scenes with the magical lube and endless fluids and being able to, put it in there without any preparation or without cleaning or without protection.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was older that I learned, that's how you properly do it.
Yeah. It's like, but not even just fan fiction. There's a lot of BL manga where it's like, they don't really bother with anything realistic.
But again, it's a fantasy, and I honestly think some of these women who actually are writing this are not actually doing research for the physical part. Mm-hmm. It's not part of the fantasy. Because if you look at some of the more adult shoujo, mm-hmm. like, there's some parts where you're like, I don't think that's physically possible.
So even being written by women who should know what happens with their own body, they're still not being realistic.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, they have zero chance of getting it right with the men.
It's like people who learn sex education from watching porn. It's actually not how to have a healthy relationship. Yeah. It's not how you should, that doesn't go there, that part doesn't bend that way. That's
not without a lot of practice.
But if that's the only thing you've seen, that's the only thing you're going to take away from it.
Yeah. Who cares if you can't physically actually get into that position, or that it's like super uncomfortable and you wouldn't want to be in that position for more than 1 second. Hey, it looks hot, so it's fine, right?
The characters in my manga says it feels great, so it obviously is a good idea to try this at home.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why you have things like magical lube. Yeah, the anus is always ready, right?
Yeah.
It's fine.
It reminds me of that one scene in Love Stage where I still can't remember his name. The younger character, he wants to, take his relationship with his now boyfriend to the next level.
Yeah.
And so he buys all of this BL manga from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to his family's assistant or manager, and he's like, "Help! I don't know what to do. In this one it says it feels good. In this one it says it hurts. Which one is it?" And he's like, "Oh crap! How do I have this talk with this kid?"
But at least he sits down. They kind of acknowledge, and he has to sit down and go, because you see him at the end. You don't see that conversation, at least not in the anime.
Oh, you see it in the manga. That's a shame.
I thought they did have it.
But they didn't go into like explicit, like, because you saw him kind of shell shocked afterwards, where he was like,
"Yeah,
oh."
I think the anime was just slightly toned down, so maybe not as much detail, but yeah. That was a good one where it's they actually have a character thinking about this beforehand.
Yeah, and having a conversation with it.
And there's somebody who actually done it, like. And then, because you see him, like, the reality hitting him of, like, things you have to do. It was like, ooh.
Yeah.
You mean it's not just like that?
It's like, that's a good example of someone doing their research and having a realistic, communicative conversation with their partner. Well, later on they had a conversation about it.
And also, another thing that you may see is the endless fluids in sex scenes. There's so much everywhere. Like,
yeah, you get that in every kind of porn, I feel like. Western, Japanese, real life, written. It's like, I swear somebody's standing off screen with a water gun just going...
Yeah, I've seen some doujinshi where it's like, they do it several times in a row, and every time it's like a gallon comes out. It's like, well, how do you have anything left in your body still?
How do they even do it several times in a row without taking pills beforehand? I don't think that's physically possible.
Maybe they did it off camera or off panel. There was pills. Yuki's joining the podcast. As a white fluffy cat, she has opinions on white stuff flying everywhere, I guess. I mean, not even Stevens, there's also, you'll often get the uke is crying a lot of tears and he's drooling and all that. It's just, they just make it super, super duper messy. It's I personally don't see the appeal. But I guess to each their own. Again,
I wonder if it's because every other BL does it, so they have to do it too, otherwise it seems kind of weird because that's what the audience is expecting.
Yeah, where's all the gallons of semen? I don't get
it. They clearly don't love each other enough.
Yeah. They're clearly not doing it right. Come on. And another thing you'll see in porn seeds is, of course, the censorship.
You mean another thing you won't see?
Yeah, I guess. Invisidicks?
Invisidicks. Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, because of Japanese censorship laws, BL, just like any other Japanese porn, will have the private parts censored to varying degrees. There's a few different types that you'll see. One is the mosaic, where it's just everything's kind of blurry. Popular in BL is the vague cylindrical shape, like a light tube that is ill-defined, but you know what it represents.
Well, there just won't be anything there. It'll just be like a smudge of light.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the invisidicks, where it's you don't even see them putting their hands or mouth on something. You just see, the shape of the hand, but there's nothing in it, or something like that. And then also the little black bars, covering various parts, usually not the whole member, but a little bit of it, so you still kind of mostly see what's happening. But yeah, what are your personal preferences for types of censorship? Jen, you can start.
Thanks. I guess the little black bar you see most in the really extreme stuff. Mostly doujinshi that people put out on comic events. Mm-hmm. But actually, yeah, I guess most mainstream manga for BL will have invisidicks or just the outline. I love that word. I'm using that word right now. That's my new favorite because of that word.
Just for vocabulary reasons alone, you like invisidicks.
Yes. I like it linguistically.
Tara, what do you like to see in your porn?
To be honest, most of the time, I prefer it when it looks more intimate, less like the weird side views always kind of creep
like
me
the
out.
X-ray views?
Oh, the X-ray? Oh, yeah, no.
But that always kind of creeps me out. Like, that's just... I understand where things go, but it's just a weird visual to me.
Shall I pull out my gravitation doujinshi back here for so all the listeners can see?
Gravitation is the worst. Like, I mean, you know, in a good way, but it's so graphic. The gravitation doujinshi has all of the tropes we discussed.
Yes.
It has the very effeminate uke. It has practically invisible female characters. It has lots of annoying angst and drama where the characters don't talk to each other. One of them's just, he's not gay, he's just into that one character. They have lots of magical lube, censorship, very graphic. One of the characters was assaulted as a child. It's all...
Well, but one was assaulted as a child, one was assaulted as an adult.
Exactly. It has every single trope.
Just doesn't happen.
Yep. Yes, gravitation is everything you're looking for, in a good way and a bad way.
And a terrible. It has every single terrible trope.
And yet, I still love it for some reason.
Because you are Fujoshi trash.
Yes, because I'm Fujoshi trash. Because I'm Fujoshi trash, my favorite type of censorship is the little black bars, because you can still see most of it.
Ha! I knew it! I knew it!
Yes.
I have to say I agree with her. The weird, like, light thing, or like holding nothing, you're like...
What's happening there?
And then they have, like, the little symbols to act like he's moving. And you're like...
Action
shake
lines
weight.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, just replace it with a shake weight and you get the same idea. So I guess, just to wrap it all up, we seem to complain a lot about BL, but overall, do we enjoy this genre still despite all of our complaints, or do we just wish they would do less of the stuff we don't like and stop some of the unfortunate tropes that we've talked about today?
I do wish there would be less assault and more meaningful connections, and drama can be created in different ways without having to, assault a character.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that is slowly changing.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, a lot of the ones we talk about are older, as we are older.
Shh! Don't give it away!
So, yes, what was considered okay 20 years ago, which was never okay. I think the assault part that just needs to go. Because it makes it harder for both men and women in real life, both in shoujo and in anime.
Mm-hmm.
If only thing you've ever seen is those, then you've got a very warped
Yeah.
Yeah.
of what a
If it's teaching you
relationship
that, that can start off a healthy, normal relationship, then, yeah.
Yeah, I've known Japanese women who have said, why don't you fight with your husband? It's normal to fight with him. It's like, that's not, okay. You do you.
It's normal to have disagreements. It's not normal to fight.
No.
There's differences.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on board with that. Is like, less assault, more realism. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily go into, like, LGBT struggles all the time. Like, not, like, really hardcore troubles, but maybe just a little bit of acknowledgement at least.
You can have Kyo Karamao, I'm in another world surrounded by all these sexy men, and have consenting relationships with them all.
Yeah. Everybody gay. Everybody happy.
Yay. Gay does mean happy.
Thank you for listening to us today. You can find other episodes of our podcast on AnnieBrosCreative.com. You'll also find other podcasts there as well, like the OG Annie Bros. You'll find Real Japan, where I often join my husband and our friend Jason to talk about live-action adaptations of anime and manga, usually to not great results, but...
You guys should watch some actually good adaptations of anime and manga for once.
It's hard to find those, though. And then you'll also find Jen and her husband Wes doing Otafu Susume, where they recommend stuff to each other and discuss it.
Woo!
You can also find us on Twitter at AnnieBrosCreative, and we thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll listen to us again next time.
Thanks.